Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Welcome you to week 6 lecture or video session, whereby I'll be talking to you about the week 6 topic for creativity and innovation, which is your elective course. Let me take you to the syllabus or course outline and show you the relevant topic before I begin my talk. The topic for this week is going to be creativity at the team level, and we will be focusing on group creativity. In this regard, for week 6, I'm going to be sharing a handout, as you can see in front of you. You are required to review or read this handout, as well as there's going to be a YouTube video, a lecture or talk delivered by a presenter. I'm going to show you the details shortly. Let me quickly go to that. Yeah, so this is Professor Michael West. So besides the handout that I showed you just a while ago, you're going to be reviewing or watching a TEDx lecture or talk delivered by Professor Michael West. As per his profile, he's currently working in Lancaster University's Management School, and he specializes in team and organizational innovation and its effectiveness. So he's considered an academician with extensive research experience regarding team creativity or group creativity, which is the focus of this video talk or lecture that I'm delivering. And also it is the topic for week 6 of the course outline. I will be sharing the link of this video with you as well on the Google Classroom. Before I begin my talk with regards to the relevant handout that you see in front of you, I would like to point out that you will be required to complete a task for week 6 in light of the talk that I deliver. At the end of this handout that will be shared with you through the Google Classroom, there are 2 questions which you can see in front of you. So you will be required to answer these 2 questions and then share the answers, short answers, by 9th of June through the Google Classroom. This is sort of going to be considered as evidence that you have actually attended this session in terms of watching my lecture or my video, as well as the video or TEDx talk by Professor West. So let us now quickly go to this handout. I have highlighted some of the key points that I will be talking about. As you can see, the title is Group Creativity, Creativity at the Team Level. Before the campus closed on March 13th, we had covered 5 weeks of in-class sessions in the classroom or on campus. And by the time we entered discussions in terms of our week 5, we were discussing creativity at the individual level. So we had conducted some exercises inside the classroom, and as well as I had shared some relevant handouts, and there was a PowerPoint presentation, and we had some activities also. So with this one, we shift to the next part of creativity, which is creativity at the team or group level. I would like to remind you that at the start of the semester, I had told you or shared with you that our course, Creativity and Innovation, is divided into 2 parts. So the first part of the semester, which is about roughly half of the semester, we will be focusing more on creativity. And as we move into the second part of the semester, which is the remaining 2 months or roughly 8 weeks, we will gradually shift our attention more towards innovation. Within creativity, we have covered creativity at the individual level. The topic that I'm speaking to you about right now is creativity at the team level. And after this, I will shift towards creativity at the level of an organization. This is just to give you a perspective in terms of how this course is going and where we are going in terms of the various topics in the sequence. Now, please note that this handout is based on some excerpts from a book. A copy of this I had shared with you. It's titled Group Creativity, Innovation Through Collaboration, and it has been written by Paulus and Bernard Nijstad. Uh, Obviously, the book has many more details, as you can see, and I'm showing you a copy of this book. This is available online also. We are not supposed to read the whole book. I'm just simply sharing this as a reference text for you to understand that some of the points that are mentioned in this handout that I'm going to be talking to you about are derived uh, from this book. Also, please note that the handout says self-learning activity. So what it means is that I'm not going to be explaining each and every aspect of this handout or the video uh, talk by Professor West. Students are responsible for making sure that based on some of the key points that I share, they derive their own interpretations and understanding of uh, some of the points that I raised during my discussion, and then develop their own understanding. And the evidence of this understanding will be in the form of those two questions that you will be answering, the ones that I mentioned earlier. Now, as far as this handout is concerned, it focuses on various dimensions of team or group creativity, and it attempts to shed some light on the basics, the key terminologies and key concerns that I would like to highlight here. For example, at the start, one important question that the handout raises is what is the source of continual change in this world? All we know is that the world is changing around us constantly. One very major shift or change, as all of you are experiencing, is connected with the coronavirus or the COVID-19 pandemic. It has brought in so many changes in all walks of life, businesses, sectors, industry, social, in the social context, how we live, how we carry out our business, trade, commerce, how governments function. Every aspect of life has been affected. So change is always there. Uh, However, some of the changes are enforced upon us as a result of natural consequences or nature. And then there are other aspects of change which are intentional or which are driven by the human race. So here we are not talking about changes in terms of uh, those bestowed upon us through nature, but rather we are talking about changes which are resulting from the human intellect. So in this context, the handout starts with this question of what is the source of such kind of change, and it tries to answer this or hint an answer by suggesting that this is through the stimulating effects of new ideas. We as human beings, as intellectuals, as people who can think, who can visualize, who can imagine, we have the capability or capacity to stimulate new ideas in any walk of life that we deal with. Now, uh, this handout talks about two dimensions of such kind of new ideas which stimulate change or which stimulate creativity. It talks about the first one, which is the big C creativity. So it simply says that big C creativity deals with uh, major changes or ideas which have profound effect on a larger group or a larger section of the society. For example, new ideas regarding how governments function, new ideas regarding technology, new ideas regarding how we run an economy, new ideas regarding uh, how a society functions, new ideas regarding how people interact with each other. So these are all symbolically given the name Big C, as you can see here in front of you. And you can read about the details when you read this handout. Besides that, the handout also talks about the little c creativity, whereby it simply says that we as human beings in our daily lives improvise based on the small problems that we face. We come up with solutions to problems. Pakistanis are famous for coming up with small little solutions, simple solutions, sometimes to complex problems. And this has to do with the fact that uh, many of us are not very resourceful in terms of the problems that we face and how we can solve them. So, for example, if you look at a car mechanic, you take your car to the mechanic, it is very likely that the mechanic has no official qualification. He's not formally educated in terms of the various technical aspects of how a car functions. But based on his intellect, based on his intuition, he will come up with a solution to any problem that your vehicle is facing or your vehicle is dealing with. So these are small solutions. Similarly, all around us, we find that people come up with uh, small little solutions. So all these little solutions, uh, which are provided through creative thinking of a common man, they have been given the name little c. Uh, Besides this, in this paragraph, the handout also mentions the importance of group interaction. And what it means is that here the authors are trying to suggest that when it comes to new ideas and creativity, everything is not possible in terms of how individuals think. Because we are part of a society, we are bound to interact with each other. And when more than one person, that is, members of a society, in groups together interact with each other, this further triggers creativity and new ideas. Moving further, the handout uh, raises a very important point in terms of different aspects of creativity, especially group or team creativity. Uh, as highlighted in the red text or red font here, most research, and this is based on evidence, most research on creativity has traditionally focused on individual creativity, and the handout tries to explain or tries to give a reason in terms of why this has been the case. Uh, One very important aspect or reason potentially for this lack of research is the focus or I mean the lack of attention to various group factors and this general belief that inside groups or teams there are various inhibiting factors which uh, do not allow uh, creativity to flourish, and those factors are then highlighted. So for example, uh, some of the factors which are considered as inhibitors to intellectual activity within teams or within groups. Some of these are highlighted in this handout. For example, pressure to achieve premature consensus. Sometimes, as you all might agree, that when you work in teams, some of the team members might feel an obligation to try and build consensus. So instead of getting into arguments or debates, some of the team members might quickly jump to agreeing with the other team members. And such urgency or pressure to build consensus might inhibit creativity. Similarly, evidence suggests that when different kinds of teams, whether teams inside organizations, whether teams inside academic institutions, student groups, as you might be familiar with because you work in groups also for various academic assignments that are given to you by your course instructors. So usually within groups or within teams, one more factor which is responsible for inhibiting creativity is low accountability and individual motivation to perform. So because I am part of a team, I might feel that I'm not answerable for my actions individually as such. And as a result, this feeling of low accountability can also be an inhibiting factor in terms of team creativity. Similarly, it might also lead to lower levels of motivation because of the fact that as a team member, I might feel that I'm not directly answerable for my actions and responsibilities being shared. So, what is the, what might be the benefit if I work or perform within this group? So, it may lead to a lower level of motivation. Similarly, one other factor responsible for inhibiting creative ideas within groups is the focus on common rather than unique ideas. And this kind of connects with the earlier point about the pressure to achieve premature consensus. So instead of coming up with something unique, and by the way, when you suggest something unique, it is very likely that some of the team members might be, and it's just based on the social norms and the way we interact. So sometimes a unique idea is criticized by other team members simply because it might feel a little, or it might seem a little more outlandish or dramatic to them. So some of the team members might focus on easy or common suggestions or problems rather than unique suggestions. So these are some of the reasons that group creativity or team creativity has relatively remained a lesser uh, focused area in terms of research and in terms of usage within practical concerns also. However, as the handout suggests later on, there is some glimmer of hope. For example, research or evidence suggests that within any group or team, any minority influence can increase creative thinking. So, for example, within a team, if someone is an outsider or someone who is not part of the mainstream within an organization or within a team, they might be a strong trigger to creative thinking or creative ideas. And some of these aspects that I'm talking about are also highlighted by Professor West in the TEDx talk that you will be required to watch besides my video lecture also. As we move with this handout further, some of the other key points that I would like to highlight to assist you in terms of understanding what this handout is saying. The main proponents of group creativity have been associated with innovation in organizations. Now, what it means is that even though in terms of research, there has been lesser attention paid to group creativity as a concept, one very important point to understand is that within business organizations or any kind of organization where innovation is encouraged, it has been found that such organizations where there is an innovative culture or focus on innovation, these organizations have a greater tendency to promote group creativity. For example, techniques like group brainstorming that is highlighted here is a common technique used inside organizations to trigger or harness group creativity. A number of group factors have been found to be responsible for triggering or strengthening group creativity as well. So, for example, in this handout, some of these factors are highlighted, such as mentoring, whereby a supervisor or a senior might support or provide advisory help to a junior colleague, and this can also result in or junior colleagues, this can result in triggering creativity. Similarly, the concept of modeling, which means here that uh, inside organizations, uh, sometimes a senior member can be a role model, and uh, the individual's behavior as a role model in terms of his or her creative traits might result in how the group or team then generates creative ideas. So modeling can be a factor. Similarly, we as human beings are part of the society, and family is one of the key binding forces as far as how a society works. So family influences are found to be responsible for how we interact or behave inside groups, for example, professional groups or organizational groups. So this can also influence creativity. And then there's a concept of social rewards. So, for example, it has been found that uh, groups or teams where some kind of reward, not necessarily monetary in nature, but in terms of reward, in terms of just appreciation or recognition, even that can also trigger the group members' propensity to be contributors in terms of creative ideas within a group or a team. Similarly, other factors which might trigger creativity within teams are intrinsic motivation, and this means that the individual or member of a group or team might be internally motivated uh, to perform better within a team and contribute more aggressively and more enthusiastically. And besides that, uh, one more factor is the organizational context that you see in front of you. So, how things are working inside an organization, there are so many factors in terms of the organizational environment, uh, organizational culture, and so many other things. So, they can also be factors influencing how teams interact and whether they generate creative ideas or not. Moving further, an important component of group creativity process is the sharing of ideas. So wherever, in any situation where people are encouraged to share ideas, there will always be greater room for creativity to flourish. Uh, and the authors of this book, from which the excerpts have been derived, they suggest that there are various ways for groups to overcome the tendency towards uniformity. And by uniformity, I mean that, as I mentioned earlier, that one of the major inhibitors to creativity within groups can be this tendency to build consensus or agree on a single point, and the urgency to agree on a single point, just to demonstrate that the team is collaborating very well. But this can uh, uh, backfire in terms of compromising on creativity or new ideas. So, one way for groups to overcome this tendency towards uniformity in thinking is to ensure that the group has members with diverse expertise and backgrounds. So, diversity of the team, diversity of team members is considered to be a very, very important factor in terms of encouraging creativity. And one of the key lessons drawn by managers and decision makers inside organizations is that when they formulate or develop any kind of team, for example, for a team for designing a product, a team for formulating some kind of a strategy regarding a particular decision, or regarding some market scenario. So the managers are advised that when they develop or formulate these teams, they should be diverse. By diversity, we mean that the members should be from diverse backgrounds. They should be from various departments. They should be having various levels of experience with regards to working inside the organizations. They should be from varying social backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, gender, etc. So the more the diversity, the greater the possibility of creativity, and the lesser the possibility that the team will try to focus on uniformity a little too soon or too urgently. However, the handout goes on to suggest that diversity can also have negative effects, and this is something connected with how organizations need to understand that just being diverse or having diverse teams is not enough. So, for example, in uh, what is the reason for this possibility that diversity can have negative effects is because sometimes if the team is too diverse, there is also going to be a potential for conflict or disagreement amongst the team members, and as a result, the whole idea of how a team works collaboratively might be compromised. However, as the handout suggests, for diversity to have positive effects on creativity, it is necessary that group members share their diverse perspectives. So, for example, uh, while we recognize that diversity has the potential for generating conflict or disagreement amongst team members, it is evidence suggests that teams whereby members are encouraged to share their views in an open, transparent manner uh, will have greater potential for uh, creative output. Moving further, the handout talks about mm, various proponents of group creativity. For example, a reference is made to Alex Osborne. He's considered to be one of the pioneers in terms of the concept of group brainstorming, which is a process of exchanging a large number of ideas in a non-evaluative, unstructured setting or manner. And usually, this is a technique which is used inside workshops, trainings by different kinds of trainers, etc., uh, to encourage people to speak up, to generate a diverse range of different ideas, thoughts, and patterns. Moving further, the handout talks about a number of social or contextual factors which can trigger or which can limit creativity within teams. Some of them I have highlighted earlier in my talk. So, in conclusion, the handout focuses on uh, four key points or four key dimensions of group or team creativity, and they are suggested to be the four common themes. Obviously, in the book from which this handout is derived, there's much more detail, but just to try and conclude in terms of some of the key dimensions of group creativity or team creativity, four common themes are highlighted. These include uh, group diversity, which has been pointed out just a while ago, and creative potential. What it means is the creative potential of the team members. So this is one of the first factors which is going to really have a strong impact on how creative a group or team is eventually going to turn out to be. Second factor which is highlighted is the obstacles to the realization of creative potential. So, for example, there are various factors which can inhibit creativity. For example, just a while ago, I mentioned that due to diversity, uh, if there is a room for conflict and that conflict is not managed, uh, that can eventually backfire and result in uh, creating hurdles for the creative potential of the team or group. Similarly, the third factor which can influence group creativity or team creativity very strongly is group climate. And this refers to within group dynamics, that is, the group members' interaction with each other, the chemistry amongst the group members, how they speak to each other, how they interact with each other, what is the nature of the relationships amongst the group members. So this is called group climate, and this can significantly influence the creative output of a team. And finally, the fourth factor is group environment. And this means the various contextual organizational dynamics or organizational factors which are outside the boundaries of the team or group. For example, the organizational environment refers to how the organizational culture manifests itself, how people within the organization, as employees, as employers, interact. What is the nature of the relationship between the senior management and the staff, amongst peers? What kind of peer pressures are there? Internal politics, so many other factors. So these four factors are considered to be very important in terms of uh, uh, influencing the creative output of teams. Now, the basic idea for this handout as a result of the discussion is that it tries to tell us about the importance of group or team creativity. It gives us a basic idea of the fundamental concepts underlying group creativity. And it tries to suggest that uh, eventually, in totality, teams or groups, when they work inside an organization or in any other setting, they are likely to be creative, provided that some of the factors highlighted through the discussion and in this handout are managed or administered by managers or organizational leaders effectively. And the more organizational managers or leadership manages or is able to look after these uh, various factors, the more effective will be the creative output of the employees, and it will result in new ideas for the organization. By new ideas, then what it means is it's going to generate new products, new ways of doing business, new ways of managing things, uh, coming up with solutions to small problems like big C that we talked about, or the large problems, creative solutions to even large problems, the big small C and the big C that I talked about earlier. So with that, I'm going to conclude this talk. As I mentioned, at the end of this handout, there are two questions. The first one is, what aspects of group or team creativity do this handout and the TEDx lecture by Michael West highlight? So the link is given for the TEDx talk. This is the one I referred to earlier. This is the video that you're going to be watching. This is an 18-minute video along with my video lecture as well. So second question is, how is group creativity different from individual creativity? Now, you will be able to answer this based on some of the points which are already highlighted in this handout, and this is going to be your job based on what I said and based on some of the points mentioned in this handout. You're going to derive the answer for this question also. So your task for week 6 will be, you will be preparing a 200-worded answer for question 1 and a 75-worded answer for question 2. And you will be sending these two answers in a Microsoft Word document, sharing it through the Google Classroom. The deadline is June the 9th. So I look forward to hearing back from you in terms of your written document. Thank you very much for your time. I wish you all the best. And inshallah, we will remain in touch. So I'll be sharing week 7 information with you next week. Allah Hafiz.